excused absence?
Yes, I'm typing up roll call now. Excused absences are Marcus Odom and Amy Bro. And a couple
And
people
also-
are going to be late.
I think Elaine and Sung-Hee Lee, they are also having final exam schedule conflict.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Any question before we prove the minutes from November 2nd? Okay, you have a copy of the minutes. I would like to invite a motion to approve the minutes. Anyone to move it?
I'll move
Motion to approve minutes. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. I'd be happy
Okay.
to second.
Jay move it, and Bethany, would you like to second?
Seconded.
Okay, so I might make sure you take notes, make sure who is moved, who is second. Any more discussion, questions or corrections, comments on the minutes? Okay. Seems to be no comments, no correction. So we would like to have a voice vote. So all in favor, say hi, and please one after another. Mike, would you like to call the executive council member's name?
Okay. Yu Ting Lee,
Yeah, yes.
myself is yay. Jay Needham,
Yay.
Scott Comparato,
Yay.
Jennifer Sherry,
Yay.
Lee Ching Wong,
Yeah.
Joseph Ceramic,
Yes.
and so that would be it for the eligible voters in attendance. I didn't hear from
Forgot
Jennifer
me.
Brobst. Oh, I'm sorry. Who'd I miss?
Bethany.
Oh, Bethy. Yes, you are on the list. I am so sorry.
It's a yay for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Number 3, actually number 4, I'm sorry, okay. My report or comments. Good afternoon, everyone. As you know, we send off the November issue of our Faculty Senator Update FIY newsletter. In addition, I have several items to report to you as follows. First, on November 17th, I attended the Chancellor's Leadership Council meeting. At the meeting, both USG undergraduate student government president Isaiah Overton and I talked about how to support our students in all aspects. On the evening of November 18th, we worked with USG undergraduate student government and held a town hall meeting, that is a faculty student forum. At the meeting, students and faculty members listened to each other and learned from each other to support our students in their academic success and mental health. In fact, the YouTube link was sent to our faculty senators. Second, I had a meeting with Chancellor Nan on November 23rd, and also had another meeting with Provost Kumarajo and Associate Chancellor Wendell Williams, primarily or mainly to discuss how our faculty member help our students instead of pass or no pass, or in lieu of pass or no pass. We had a special meeting on November 30th to address our students' issues, such as posthumous degrees and students' mental health and academic success. Third, in the late November and early December, different constituencies and Chancellor's cabinet members interviewed 4 candidates for the athletic director positions. I attended 3 of them to represent faculty members and faculty senators. I also wish to express my appreciation to Dr. Sung-Hee Lee for covering the interview with the 3rd candidate while I was teaching on Wednesday afternoon, December 1st. Finally, on December 2nd, I attended SIU Board of Trustees meeting, where I made a few remarks. A copy of my remarks was sent and shared with you. Thank you. Any questions, comments for me? Okay. So if there's no question, no comments, I'm going to move on to number 5, report. So executive committee, actually I talked, so I do not want to repeat. So next one, election committee, and Bethany, would you like to talk about JRB?
Yes. So today I have 4 candidates, excuse me, for the Judicial Review Board for FSEC approval. Once approval is given, if approval is given, these names will go to the full Faculty Senate for approval and membership to the JRB. And just a little bit of background on what we did after a long period of time trying to annotate lists of faculty. We sent out a directed approach for calls for nomination for JRB because the JRB procedures say that it should reflect the diversity of the units or the colleges on campus. That also includes the School of Education, Law, and Medicine. And with the 4 members that were cycling off this year, we would have had deficiencies in 4 of those colleges. So we sent out a directed call for nominations for those colleges. We got back actually quite a bit of nominations, more than I was expecting. And we took, as has been done in the past, the top nominated candidates, the number of them equal to the number of senators on the Senate, which is also part of procedure. And then we sent out a questionnaire just to confirm that they are willing to serve on the JRB and to confirm that they're eligible to serve on the JRB. And the 4 nominees are the 4 that we got responses, there you go, by our deadline, which was last Thursday. So those are the 4 names I have for you. They are, let me get this back up, excuse me. They are Janet Alberts from the School of Medicine, James Condor from CALPS, John Davies, and Seung-Hee Lee from CAM. So those are the 4 names that we will be voting on today. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Other than that, I think your procedure sounds like a better approach, because I remember Grant last year had a real tricky problem figuring out who was eligible and not getting accurate lists from provost office and everything. So kudos.
Thanks. After a month of work, Josh and I working on these lists, I'm still not entirely sure our lists are 100% accurate. We did ask for colleges to look at our lists, and some did reply with.
So did you approach the deans of the different colleges? What was the procedure here?
Yeah, so we got an original list from HR, which we annotated and sent those annotated by college, by faculty level. And then sent those to the deans of all the colleges and the School of Education and School of Law. And then some replied with annotations to those lists, which we used then going forward. Some did not. So, and I think this is going to be a problem for, every year this occurs, but we tried our best. All right, if there are no other questions, then I say if you guys are ready and willing, we vote on our 4 candidates.
Now, I do have a minor question. Maybe you can help us to clarify. We have 2 candidates from the School of Architecture. So is that 2 vacancies from them, or do you think maybe overrepresented?
So they won't be overrepresented. So there are 12 seats on the Senate, which means that some colleges are going to have more representatives than others because there's just more seats than there are colleges and not enough seats to have 2 from each. So this is going to work out where if these names are approved, then we'll have 2 for CHHS, 2 for CAM, 2 for COLA, and run for the rest except for CECTM. It's at 0 currently. That will continue to be at 0 for this year, unfortunately. But we just didn't get any respondents back in time.
And is this reflecting the new colleges or the old colleges still?
The new colleges.
Right, because just to clarify, Yu-Ting, just to remind you, the good chunk of what used to be COLA is now in CAM. Like we lost a good third of our college to CAM.
But if these 4 are approved, this list will look more equal across campuses than it has, at least in the last year. And then if we have someone that is leaving or wants to leave the JRB, we can do another directed search for CECTM. And that will go into, all this information will go into next year's election. And I'll make sure to communicate with whoever does this next year about our procedure this year and what we think should happen going forward.
Good, thank you.
All right, so any other questions? So Matt, do we want to do this individually, or are you guys okay with, or can we? I'm not even sure if it's possible to vote on them as a group.
I second the motion to vote on them as a group.
Okay.
Are there any?
I think we've done that in the past.
Are there any objections to that?
No.
All right, then let's get to it. So this will be voting on the group of 4 candidates for the JRB.
Okay. So Yu-Ting Lee,
Yeah.
myself, yay. Jay Needham,
Yay.
Jennifer Brobst,
Yay.
Scott Comparato,
Yay.
Jennifer Sherry,
Yay.
Li-Ching Wong,
Yay.
Joseph Ceramic,
Yay.
Bethany Rader.
Yay.
Okay, that's everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bethany. Okay, the next one, and we have 2 resolutions from Undergraduate Education Policy Committee. I know Amy has a class final exam schedule conflict, couldn't be here, and Joe, you will take care of all flow for 2 resolutions.
Okay, so we have a guest here from the Touch of Nature, so I will let Tom answer any specific questions. There is a small typo in this resolution. Thank you, Tom, for catching it. So there in the therefore, if I can have the approval of the full executive committee here, just to make the last nature in that last sentence also capitalized so we're consistent. It's a slight clerical typo. So that would be the Josh, if you can just amend that real quick before you send it out to the full faculty senate next week. Okay, did you catch anything else, or is that the main one? I think that was the main
That was the
one.
only thing I saw, Joe.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have? Do you want to field any particular questions about this already?
I'm happy to answer any questions. I mean, it's pretty straightforward what you had listed in there. We
Okay.
want the new name to really reflect what we do out here. Environmental center is a little bit dated. That's still important to us, but we really do outdoor education. So,
Sure.
Happy to field any questions though.
I guess the one question I had was that the letter of concurrence you got from Julianne Wallace, is that reflecting the recreation major on campus?
Say it again.
How much do you partner with the recreation program on campus, the recreation major? I'm assuming that's why the letter of concurrence is in the RME.
Well, we have two of our staff they work for us 3/4 of the time, and they actually
Okay.
teach in the rec department 1/4 of the time.
Okay.
So we have 2 positions that are that
That-
teach actually classes in the rec department.
Any other questions?
Now, I do have a couple of questions about the budget and personnel. So I'm just curious I know on one of the pages, you talked about the anticipated budgetary effect. So is this the actual budget or expected budget? How many staff, faculty member do you have there? And what's the total budget? What's the external resources and internal resources? I'm just curious, which is, I couldn't find much information there. Maybe you can help us to understand or to clarify.
Say the question? Well, I'm not for sure what you're asking.
The question about the budget.
Oh, the Yuting, I think that was the budgetary impact of any of the name change. I think that was a more specific thing that they were asked to address. Not that the overall budget of the Touch of Nature, but rather what impact financially would the RME have. And so I think you covered it. You said it was covered by a $100,000 grant from the SIU Foundation.
Right.
So university resources are nil here, basically.
They're nil. Yep.
Yeah. So did that answer your question, Yuting?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
The foundation is paying for the funds for all the
Right, so there's
signage. Yep.
Right. So there's no adverse effect to university resources.
Correct.
Mhm. Right. Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, I'd like to move a resolution to endorse this for the full faculty senate.
Second.
So we're going to vote.
Yes, please.
Okay. To bring the resolution to the full Senate and the renaming of Touch of Nature. Yuting Lee,
Yeah,
yay for me,
Yay.
yay for Jay Needham. Scott Camperato,
Yes.
Jennifer Sherry,
Yay.
Li-Ching Wang,
Yeah.
Jennifer Brobst,
Yay.
Joseph Stramick,
Yes.
Bethany Rader.
Yay.
Okay, that is everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. And
Thank you very much.
next week we'll have a full faculty senate, so you should get an invite to that as well.
Okay, appreciate it.
Hmm.
You need anything else from me then today?
No, thank you so much. And again, thank you for such a clear case here for a resolution.
thank you,
You're
Tom.
welcome. Enjoy. Okay.
Okay,
Have a good day. Bye.
you too. Bye-bye. So I'd like to I don't think I see Dr. Anderson here, so I'd like to bring up for consideration the resolution to rename the Coal Research Center, the Advanced Energy Institute. I don't promise that I'm an expert on the ins and outs of why this is, but I'll try to do the best I can. The one concern we had and the UEPC committee was, unlike the other resolution, a Touch of Nature one, it's unclear where the resources are coming from to do the name change in terms of signage, in terms of logo, in terms of changing the letterhead. That is actually not in the RME. So I just want to raise that one concern that members of the UEPC also raised. We endorsed the resolution in the sense that we let the, bring it to the executive committee for consideration, but there was one or two of my colleagues who had that concern that it didn't get to the budget part that Yuting brought up.
Joe, I'm just curious, you send the email to Ken, Dr. Ken Anderson, ask him
Yes.
to come here. So
Yes.
why he couldn't be here?
Oh, it's final exam week. Who knows why he can't be here? I don't want to read into that too much.
Sure.
I mean, it's just a very hectic week for, I think, all of us. So I will do the best I can to field anything relating to this, but
Do you, again, okay, I'm just curious whether Department of Physics or Chemistry are aware about this, because energy, not just the coal, it involves photovoltaic, like other type of energies. So I'm just curious, maybe if other faculty senator will raise their questions.
Li Cheng, do you want to field that in any way, since you're in chemistry?
Yeah, I mean, chemistry, I'm not sure. Obviously, the new name seems to be more kind of reflective the sentiment of people regarding coal. And it has been a long time in the past, and then there were people keep saying coal is bad and there's pollution. So there's a joke. We say, oh, we wash the coal into white. Still, it's not good enough. So I can understand people want to change the name. And on the other hand, and also by changing it, it also expanded what can be done by the center. So that's a positive side, I would say. The downside of changing the name is because this center is funded by Illinois Coal kind of consortium. Like somehow, like all this, like all the people who are actually the money was sent into this center is by the mining industry, because they have a pocket money and then they put aside, they sent it to them. So by changing name, I'm not 100% sure whether the part who support this, like the center, would be willing to, say, oh no, you change the name, so it's not us, we're not supporting you. So that's something I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not entirely sure either, but I will just kind of relay, now that you raise that very interesting perspective, I'll raise some of the conversations that I've had with Lizette regarding this RME. And of course, as you know, we sunsetted last year the mining engineering major. We sunsetted it. In fact, we sent it last year. And so I think all these things should be seen as related, actually, not as separate RMEs, but they're related in the sense that there is a major contraction in the mining industry and in the coal mining particulars. I think as the RME states, it really is is becoming a dead field for good reason. I mean, it's very polluting, and other people want to have cleaner sources of energy, and so I think they're finally understanding that, wanting to position themselves in a different way. I think it also speaks to the efforts for many, many years now of the Sustainability Coalition to close down the coal plant on campus. So I think all these things are related. And so I don't know. So thank you for that comment there, because no, I think it just brings into conversation some of the other things that have been going on.
Yeah. And then it will be interesting to know that because the center has a board of trustees, they have like a advisory committee, and then how like supportive this committee is about the name changing, because they are the ones who connected directly with the state legislators, and then who are providing the money, all the things. But yeah, hopefully.
One of my suggestions is that we do need to invite like the chair or the director of physics and chemistry to be there next next week.
I have no
because-
problem. I think that's a good idea. So Josh, can you do that?
Now, I think it's great to change the name because not just focus on the coal, but also we need to think about the photovoltaic as well as nuclear energy and other energies too. I think that would bring, the synergy and collaboration to the campus. And we would like to see this to happen for the benefit of the community and the university.
Can't argue with that. I think the other thing here is these are resolutions that almost never in the past came before the faculty senate. So I just want to also state that there is something new about the fact that the Chancellor Lane has directed the associate provost to send this to the faculty senate.
Yeah.
Because this is usually handled as an administrative decision without any faculty input. So I will state that there is something that this is, a change of policy directed from Chancellor Lane, that we're even seeing this in the first place.
Thank you.
Mhm. Well, if there's no other comments, I'd like to call a vote on this as well.
Go ahead.
I move this resolution next week to the full faculty senate.
Second.
Okay,
Okay,
go ahead.
Yu-Ting Lee,
Yes, yeah.
yay for me. Jay Needham,
Yay.
Jennifer Probst,
Yay.
Scott Comparato,
Yay.
Jennifer Sherry,
Yay.
Li Ching Wang,
Yeah.
Joseph Ceramic,
Yes.
Bethany Rader.
Yay.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Joe.
And just a warning, we're going to have a flurry of resolutions in early spring. I think we got delivered 4, and I put my foot down because we were already deliberating on the first 2. That to have some kind of orderly procedure here, we'll take them up in January and have them for February. So just an early warning about that.
Thank you, Joe. And any questions before we move to budget committee? I know Marcus has a final exam schedule conflict. Jenny, would you like to?
I'm happy to speak for the committee. We've only met once this semester. We kept waiting on the Gray and Associates, and they finally completed that. That was obviously something that we were going to monitor, and we will. But we also promised to relook at these town hall figures and equity report card, and I finally did it. So I looked into the fact books to see if the data had been updated, and it's only partially updated. So there's still some 2020 figures in some of that. But I did some digging around and wanted to draw your attention to a couple of figures, because last year, one of the things we didn't do but promised we would do was to look at gender and race equity. And so that came up with some stark figures that I wanted to share with you and get your feedback in terms of how our committee might be able to help, or if there's another committee we could join with to consider this. One thing is that the fact books allow you to look, say, a 5-year period from 2017 to 2021. I actually had 2021 data on this. And there has been no change in the ratio of male and female tenure track faculty. So I'm only focusing on tenure track, like none. It was 66% male to 33% female for the last 5 years, no change. And that's not really, unless we tie it to salary or we tie it to some other financial incentives, it's not necessarily a budget committee issue, but it's certainly something worthy of discussion. And then with respect to white to a combined non-white tenure track faculty, it was 69% white. And if you look at the national demographics, it's about 60% white, non-Hispanic in this country. So we're looking at 9% more white faculty tenure track than you would expect from the population at large. So those two figures are things that we need to address. I recognize that I'm chair of our personnel committee right now at the law school. These are decisions often made internally within each department. So I don't know the role of the faculty senate. Perhaps this is something that a resolution might, in terms of supporting equity, in terms of hiring, would at least make a statement, and the Daily Egyptian would take a look at that. But I wanted you to just be aware of that. And then one separate issue that came out of that data was of all the types of teachers we have lost. And I know that we talked about how it flipped to having more NTT faculty than tenure track faculty for the first time last year. Well, of all the types of teachers we've lost the most, 13%, we have lost 13% over the last 5 years of our graduate assistants. And I think they deserve a greater voice on our faculty senate. And I admit it's slightly personal. My son is a doctoral student, not here. And it's been really, really tough for him to make it. So I think that that's worthy of conversation as well. So I'm just open to feedback. We will meet early, obviously, in January at some point, our committee. But I don't know if another committee would like to work with us on highlighting some of this or drafting a resolution.
Thank you. Jenny, any comments, question for her?
Yes, yeah, I just thank you a lot for what you do in your committee. First off, it's hard, particularly since I'm not entirely sure how forthcoming the upper administration is with budgetary figures. It's often been something that they keep to themselves. I want to kind of speak to the Gray Associates piece, because I think a lot of us were asked last May to go and attend their workshop right after, I think it was the first or second week in the summer leave. Some of us did make it to that, but then I kept asking the chancellor, are we signing a contract with them or not? Are we, from your knowledge, are they actually doing a self-study of reorg at this point? Does that actually happening?
The last
because
I saw was that
I'm a little
the contract
confused.
was signed, and I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if the contract had changed.
Okay, so that is ongoing this year, because there's been almost no information about that since we were asked to go to that one meeting.
I don't think they've begun their work yet.
I don't think they've begun their work. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone know what they're being paid?
I asked that too. I'm like, how much is this costing us? I don't know. And I suggested at our budget committee meeting to try to find that out. So Marcus is going to be our liaison from the committee to monitor that.
I heard 6 figures, but that's just a rumor.
Thank you.
I have not so much of a question as a comment.
Yeah.
And that is that, although I'm not sure this is purview of the elections committee, which I'm chair of, I'm would love to be a part of writing a resolution. So.
Okay, good. And to be honest, the data speaks for itself. It probably write pretty quickly.
Yes.
So maybe I can come up with a draft and send it your way and send it to my committee. And I don't know, doesn't 5 years seem like odd to you?
It does, especially given the push over the last 5 years, at least the last couple of years, to be more inclusive in our hiring. And we've hired a lot of faculty in the last couple of years as well. So it is a bit surprising.
Yeah,
We've also lost 40% of our faculty in the last 5 years. So there's to quote Ross Perot, a giant sucking sound coming out of SIU, and it's going elsewhere. So we have not gone anywhere near toward replacing the people we've lost. So
very true.
That's also going to skew things potentially, because we don't control who leaves.
That's
But
right.
we also, and I was thinking that too, that be interesting to know if we lost certain faculty more than others, and or
Yeah, I
young
think-
faculty, you know, or
So I
that-
can only speak for my own department,
Yeah.
but the majority of the 6 people we lost in the last 5 years, 5 of the 6 were females.
I'm sorry, 5 or 6.
In history, now history is unique, you know, it's only one department on campus, but we were to 5-6 years ago, 60% female faculty in our department. And now we're majority male again because we lost a lot of our female colleagues. And we also lost female scholars of color as well. So I think that's maybe true elsewhere. It's very disturbing. Now, let me, I just recently did the affirmative action training on campus because I'm on 2 search committees now on the university. And and you're a lawyer, so I just raised some legal points here. I think there's some legal constraints around affirmative action law that the university has to kind of maneuver around here. The training itself, my own personal experience, was very well done. Was a very hour and a half, really good training about bias but you know, how to bracket yourself out of that when you're looking for I thought it was very well done, you know.
Yeah, I had to go through it this year too, and I had some major issues.
Well, but you might because you're a lawyer, yeah. And I'm not looking at this from the legal perspective, I think, as you are. I don't know what a resolution, so I guess I'm just cautioning here. I'm in full support of something that we say something about this, but I don't know how we tailor it.
Well, I don't know if resolutions cement a concern in time. You know, it's almost like a historical document before it's ever adopted, because we don't have very much power as a body. And that's okay. You know, it's like we can call back past resolutions and say this is still important. You know, it just sort of lends to our voice. But at the same time, if we don't want to just throw it into the wind and have it not matter, that minimizes the issue.
Right.
The town hall concept, we have tried it with different committees, is marginally successful and usually gets forgotten. The resolution at least is in print and sticks around. I don't know.
Is there a venue for doing these sorts of reports yearly? Maybe not town halls, maybe not resolutions, but having a repository for that information and then reminding people yearly, this is where you would find this information.
Well, this was the idea. It was actually my idea on the budget committee last year to make this ongoing, but we wanted to see how often it ought to be. And now that I've seen that the fact books aren't updated equally, I don't think it's going to be annual, but it could be every 2 years. It could be every 5 years using the same metrics. And then it would be more interesting to people. A lot happens in between. You could have a budget crisis. You could have a racial reckoning across the country. You could have a pandemic. Things happen. So it needs to be the right time period that can capture something. But yeah. It's possible. It's possible to do it, I think.
Just to have that longitudinal approach to the data, because I think we all, we don't have those yardsticks of which to measure where we are now. Like I said, the institutional memory of any faculty senate or any faculty for that matter, whether you know, we all are term limited, we have a 3-year term, we're only allowed to be one extra term after that, and we have to cycle off. So we have, you know, constant turnover and churn in the faculty senate. And I think we ought to have that. I'm not against that. But what I think, you know, would help, I've noticed this when we were dealing with the issue just recently of how to do posthumous degrees. We were talking about that last week, and how we had this 1974 faculty senate resolution that was way back in time. And so I don't know if I haven't thought this fully out myself, but could we possibly have like a sunsetting mechanism in a lot of our resolutions? Revisit this in 2 years, or revisit the same issue in 3 years, or whatever the time span is. That way we're keeping our thoughts fresh. The faculty senate is doing its investigative work, which is where our power is.
Okay, I think a good comment. I think Perhaps the budget committee will work together with some tangible, concrete data, with some whatever you guys work out, and then we can have a discussion. And because of time, we would like to move on. Unless you have an urgent, important question for Jenny, it takes we still have 2 more resolutions heading up us.
Okay, okay.
Okay, thank you. And the next one is committee on committee. I know that Elaine and Sung Hee Lee, they are having final exams, and they proved those 4 GRB members. They sent it to Bethany, so I'm not going to repeat that. In the meanwhile, administration sent a request for a member to serve on the Faculty and Staff Service Excellence Committee. They identified a person, Deborah Penrod. So, and they're going to, I think next week, they're going to send a name for the faculty senator to prove. This is what I know from them. That's the committee on committee. Any questions about this committee? Okay. Now, the next one is the faculty status and welfare committee. We have co-chair Scott and Jennifer, Professor Jennifer Sherry here, and also we have a guest here. So we have about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. And the first, Scott, you may talk about the first resolution.
Thank you. The first item up is the change to the Faculty Senate operating paper. By way of a little bit of background, there's been confusion in the past regarding membership and seating on the Faculty Senate. We've had numerous members who either prior to being elected or during their term on the Senate have taken on administrative roles, some of those being interim, some of them being permanent. And there has been some inconsistency in how that has been handled. The operating paper is vague, I would say, in terms of membership. The only administrative members, I believe, that are referenced are the provost, the chancellor, the provost, and the VCs, assistant vice chancellors, as well as having ex officio status on the faculty senate, but no voting powers. But what it has led to has been inconsistency in terms of those members of faculty who've taken on administrative responsibilities and roles and have stayed on the Senate. Some have resigned when moving to that status, some have not. And so there was a request that FSW committee take on clarifying that and offering up a way of amending the operating paper to provide some clarity, and that was provided with our edits in your packet for today. So I'd be happy to offer that resolution to the committee to the EC for approval and discussion.
And I just want to make 2 quick comments. First of all, I want to thank you and Jennifer Sherry and your committee for the excellent work, which take a lot of time. It's very important for faculty senator in terms of integrity, independence. And second, in terms of procedure, if our faculty senator executive council approve it next week, faculty senator approve it, and then entire faculty member will vote on that. So, and then the open paper will be updated after 3 procedures. Thank you.
I just have a question, which I wasn't entirely sure was covered in the amendments. How does this address the issue, I think, that came up last year of serving on the JRB and then serving on the faculty senate, and how you're not supposed to be on both? I think Walter Metz, for example, last year was a JRB member, and then I remember we were discussing that because he became interim dean, he was no longer eligible to be on a JRB, and there's because it's interim. So is this operating paper only covering membership on the faculty senate, or also things related like the JRB, which are appointed through the faculty senate, but
No,
Running-
our changes were only to membership on the faculty senate. We did not cover the JRB with
Okay. So then I think my thing's a comment, because I think that also was confusing last year. I remember last year's faculty senate, we had some issues with JRB membership, and if you're an administrator, you're not supposed to be on JRB either.
Really, to one of your points really quickly. So I had a conversation with Mark Morris about the interim question because we were interested in that for the JRB election. And he said that interim administrators are not technically considered administration, and so would then be eligible for things like JRB.
Okay.
Yeah, can I speak on that too? We knew that interim, for lack of a better word, accounting purposes, I guess, for the university, interim chairs or deans, they are still considered part of essentially the bargaining unit. And I don't want to necessarily conflate the Senate with the faculty association, but if you're an interim administrator, you're still covered by the union. And technically, I think in the past, most, I don't want to make that generalization. Some faculty who have gone in, taken on interim roles have stayed on the Senate. Some have chosen to resign. We frankly didn't want to get into the weeds of delineating between interim and permanent. The function, I guess, a way of putting it, of sort of the roles that faculty member will play as an interim chair, an interim dean, or a permanent chair or permanent dean are essentially the same. It's simply a question of what their percentage of appointment on their workload assignments are, and several other sort of, again, accounting issues with the university. Their function is different. They are acting as an administrator. And so we felt, for the sake of parsimony and clarity, that we simply treat interim and permanent the same for the purposes of representation on the Senate.
Thank you, Scott. Jay, you have a comment? You raised over your hand.
Yeah, just a quick couple of comments, only because I really support the kind of tight revision here that's happening. We've seen a kind of a migration, essentially, a kind of a gray area for faculty and administration. And I think it doesn't serve the Senate very well. I've seen, this actually come in direct conflict with some of our own business on the Senate. And so I think also the matter of percentage, administration is happy to write up contracts that say 100% administrative and 100% faculty. So, I think the more clearly we can author our own operating papers there, the better. Only because, again, I've been privy to some faculty who have shared their contracts with me that essentially say otherwise. So there's inconsistency there as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion before we have a motion? Oh, okay, Jenny.
I was interim associate dean and remained on the faculty senate when COVID started. I didn't know otherwise. And looking at the resolution, it says the word holding 51% administrative. I don't think I would have understood what that meant. And I think I was still teaching one class, and I definitely saw it as interim and had no clear intent to keep the job as interim. So I don't know. I think you might get some pushback with the full faculty. I could be wrong. Maybe there aren't that many people that were in my position, but I understand the concern is for a conflict of interest. And of course, the law school is different anyway, because we're not part of the union. But I have to tell you, from a personal standpoint, it didn't make a hoot of difference that I was interim associate dean. I still sort of saw myself as faculty.
Well, if I may, I just address this. I think this is very important. This resolution is very important. I have checked the bylaws and also open the paper on other campuses. And of course, there's no unanimous agreement on administration or faculty status. But speaking from my own experience, it's better to define it. If hypothetically, if I am hired as administrator tomorrow, I will resign immediately. Doesn't matter whether I'm an intern, director or chair or dean or whatever. I used to be dean of cognitive art and science in Toledo as well as Minot. They even do not allow administration to attend faculty senate meeting. I have to get their permission. And of course, nowadays, okay, the meeting is open to public. I think it's important to have this clarification. Joe?
Just really briefly though, because I think we are, I think there's a bit of unclarity that's still going to remain, and a bit of inchoateness that's going to remain on this campus even still, because, for example, I'm program coordinator of history, and one could make, and as well as director of undergraduate studies. So I have 25% administrative contract, right? And I get a course release for doing all that. I'm making now decisions on behalf of my program, but I'm not the director of the school. So I guess technically I'm still in the bargaining unit. I'm still covered by the Faculty Association bargaining unit. But the university has created this gray area increasingly, as we all know, with schools and restructuring. When you have multi-unit schools and you have some administrative authority over your program in lieu of what the chair used to do. So where do we draw the line on that? Is there substantial interest is with faculty, or your substantial interest is you're an administrator at that point? I don't know. It's kind of a murky. Unfortunately, universities made it less clear for us over the last few years rather than more clear.
Scott, comments?
Well, I mean, I don't know how it works in history, but I mean, technically, even if you are an undergraduate director or a graduate director or an associate chair, no offense to you, Joe, but no, your assignment of people's classes is not the final word. You're not the decision maker.
Right.
Somebody higher up the chain makes that call. So technically, you do not have authority over your colleagues to tell them what to do.
That's
a chair or a director does. They sign a workload assignment. They tell you what you're teaching. They tell you what your percentages are. They are your superior. You are not. That's the difference. And that's what happens once you cross the 50% threshold.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Li Chang and then Matt.
Yeah, I have a comment. When I was chair of the department, and I remembered my appointment is 50% of administrator. So that's why I thought, I don't know how does that work, but I'm not the chair anymore. So I thought it's 50%, not the 51%. And another comment is about the interim and the permanent. I fully agree with this. No matter which type that are considered as administrators, especially on this campus, our interim can last much longer than the permanent.
Okay, any response? Okay, Matt?
This is sort of what along the lines that I think of what Joe was saying concerning these percentages. In my experience with my workload agreement, those percentages really don't mean anything. I feel like I'm doing 100% in all categories all the time. So I just have a feeling that just saying 51% is the cutoff point. I'm not sure that's even strong enough to argue. Like somebody may say, oh no, well, I mean, is that 51% on paper somewhere? But is it
it is
put in practice? Is that realistic? Is what the person's doing? I just think it's a little unstable for me.
It's actually, Matt, as stable as you can get, because if you have a 51% administrative appointment, you're not represented by the union. You're not faculty. Okay, quote unquote. You're not faculty anymore if your workload assignment says you're a 51% administrator. and we have to have a bright line somewhere. And
Good.
yes, the university, forgive me, has played rather fast and loose with workload assignments in recent years.
Mhm.
And they've gotten around a lot of quote unquote rules regarding workload assignments.
Mhm.
If someone has a better way of identifying a cutoff, I'm all ears. But this is why I referenced the Faculty Association earlier and how past practice has been conducted by this university when it comes to administrators. As Jay mentioned, you may have noticed he passed over it very quickly. It's kind of impossible for someone to be 100% an administrator and 100% a faculty member. And yet there have been contracts that have said that. So we got to pick some line. So if someone has an idea
Yeah.
for a better one,
Yeah, I just think I can just see it happening where somebody says, yeah, on paper, I'm 51% administrator, but in practice, that's not it.
Yeah, but we're simply allowing for some parity, at least for what has been in practice here. So we're adjacent to and related to the union in this regard. So that would, we're simply trying to put into play a measure that's, similar across all these boundary lines. Because, yeah, I share Scott's perspective and some of our other colleagues as well, that the fast and loose really, really has hurt the Senate's work. As an advising body, we have to stand pretty strong and united in that regard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have two more comments from two Jennifers, Professor Jennifer Sherry first, then Jenny next. Then we're going to have a motion to vote.
Okay, I just had a comment just about kind of the term that went through with being vague. If we all look at our contracts, a lot of times we have other duties as assigned. And so that's a pretty vague statement. And they put that in for an umbrella to say you can do certain things that are assigned to you that you weren't expecting to do. So it's kind of that same thought. So that was my only comment.
Thank you. Jenny?
Just wanted to ask, and a number of you have been on this body a lot longer than I have, but where have the conflicts shown up that have hurt the Faculty Senate because of this?
Anyone to speak?
at least in my experience, I can say it's a problem enough that some people resign and some people don't. That inconsistency enough in the application of understanding what is faculty and what is not faculty is disruptive to the work of the Senate, where you have people who do resign and people who don't resign. And there be no standard for essentially saying when someone should serve or not serve. I think at the very least, any representative body ought to have clear guidelines as to membership and who should serve and who should not serve. So that alone is a distraction. Secondly, in my 2.5 years on the Senate, I have seen numerous conflicts of interest of individuals who held administrative positions, clearly pushing administrative priorities beyond what I would consider and many of my colleagues would consider, for lack of a better term, good taste, appropriate behavior. I've seen many people who had administrative positions then get promoted the instant they weren't on the Senate anymore. Again, maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist or maybe I'm just a little bit touchy, but I've seen the pattern repeat itself too many times. I'd be open to anyone else who wants to relay any of their anecdotes as well. But I don't like how the Senate has been run in recent years and how people have behaved. And I think a lot of it is owing to people seeing the Senate as a ladder to climb into administration. And I think this is one way to as Jay said, make sure that the Senate is representative of the faculty and nip that sort of revolving door in the bud.
Thank you. I can totally see the potential for that. This is the first I've heard that there have been issues, but I confess I've also wondered
Thank you.
about that myself. And so for that reason, I think I could vote for this.
I know Chair has a quick comments. I really want to move to have a motion to vote.
Just-
Are you
yeah.
going to,
I can hold on that comment. That's fine. I can hold
yeah,
on.
would
That.
you like to move it or,
I'd like to then move it to a vote. If
okay, anyone to
you feel
second?
comfortable.
That,
Second, oh, no, okay. Matt, would you like to have a voice vote?
Okay, for the resolution for the changes in the operating paper, Yu-Ting Lee.
Yeah, yes.
For me, I will say yay. Jay Needham,
Yay.
Jennifer Brobst,
Okay,
Scott Comparato,
Yay.
Jennifer Sherry,
Yay.
Lee Ching Wong,
Yeah,
Joseph Sramick,
yes,
Bethany Rader.
Yay.
That is everybody.
Sung-Hee, I think Sung-Hee Lee, she just came here.
Yeah, I had the final exam. Yeah, I just joined here. So I don't know, I'm qualified to go to this
Okay.
agenda.
Good, thank you. So everybody is here voted, right?
Yes.
All right, the next resolution, and I would like either Scott or Jennifer Sherry to talk briefly, and also have a guest here. And technically, we only have about 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay. This has been an issue that has been before the Senate several times already this semester. As you know, Professor Ed Benyus came to the Senate regarding Professor Mingjing Zhao's alleged misconduct and prosecution by the U.S. Department of Justice. At last month's meeting, FSW committee was essentially agreed to look into the matter and have a discussion and perhaps come up with a resolution regarding Professor Zhao. And I have included that as well has been included in your packet. I hope that you don't ask me to read it all, but it has been provided. I don't know if Jennifer or Ed would like to comment on it before we open it up to questions or comments.
Yeah, I think
But
it's pretty self-explanatory. So if everybody has a chance to look it over or has had a chance, Professor Benyus, would you like to speak?
I have a little statement to make. Most of this is based on personal experience, and a lot of it is in the public record. So thanks for giving me the opportunity. I met Professor Mingjing Zhao in 2004 when our daughters were both in the toddler room, the child development lab at SIU. I would see Ming every day at drop-off and pickup. We eventually became very close friends, and our daughters are best friends to this day. Ever since we found out about Ming's indictment, my family has been completely devoted to helping him fight it. The charges are outrageous, and we are not about to sit by and do nothing when one of the kindest, honest, and most gracious people we know is being prosecuted by the federal government for doing his job. Dr. Zhao, whose primary language is Chinese, was questioned in December for over 2 hours by FBI agents who appeared unannounced at his doorstep. Ming is from China. Growing up there, he learned that when authorities show up at your door, you let them in and answer their questions. Otherwise, in China, you are considered guilty and will be incarcerated. Dr. Zhao was not read his Miranda rights until after 2 hours of questioning by the FBI. At that point, with all 3 of his children at home participating in remote learning during the pandemic, more agents who had been outside came to his house and began taking computers, etc. When the federal government comes after you, they have virtually unlimited resources. Dr. Zhao's friends and supporters are fully committed to helping Ming fight these unjust accusations. I would like to see the Faculty Senate follow the lead of the Faculty Association and urge that SIU return Professor Zhao to his teaching position to do what he loves, teach and share his knowledge with students. I'd also like for the university administration to publicly support Dr. Zhao, since everything he was doing in China was for SIU and to recruit students. SIU awarded Dr. Zhao the College of Science Outstanding Scholar Award in 2016, so it is well aware of his outstanding research and teaching. As the Stanford letter that the Senate voted to support last month indicates, the China Initiative reflects a lack of understanding of how fundamental research is conducted at American universities. Thankfully, the SIU Faculty Association has issued a statement specifically supporting Dr. Zhao, recognizing that he did nothing wrong and that everything he did was in an effort to help SIU. Ming has already spent his life savings to clear his name. As the motion to dismiss filed by his attorneys last week indicates, his connection with any universities in China was to help recruit students to SIU, something that SIU has been trying to do for decades. The motion also makes clear, and the evidence in his case will show, that Dr. Zhao fully disclosed these relationships in his NSF grant application, which SIU has to sign off on. The motion also points that out of a $150,000 NSF grant awarded, only $5,000 has been spent, and none of that went to Ming. Ultimately, the China Initiative was designed to stop China from stealing our intellectual property and spying. This is a noble goal, but the way the DOJ has gone about it is all wrong. In Dr. Zhao's case, there are no allegations of espionage or intellectual property theft. None. He fully disclosed his affiliations to both SIU and the NSF. He did not receive another grant from China. He has not received any money personally from the NSF grant. His research is in fundamental mathematics, the results of which are for everyone and not proprietary in any way. The government is also unable to provide any evidence of willful intent to defraud. Professor Zhao has been a resident of the United States for 30 years and a U.S. citizen since 2006. And as I said, SIU has been working with Chinese universities, as many of you know, to attract students to the United States, to SIU, for the last 50 years. Mingxing Zhao is a pillar of our community, devoted to his family and to his students, having donated his time to teach high-level math to pre-college students for 8 years every Saturday, for which WSIU awarded him the Good Neighbor Award in 2021. Therefore, I urge the Faculty Senate Executive Committee to send this resolution of support for Dr. Mingxing Zhao against the government's unjust charges to the full Faculty Senate for a vote next week. I do have documents that are publicly filed. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to refer you to them.
Thank you, Professor Piñas. Any question for him, for the committee co-chairs? Okay, Matt?
I'm just curious here about the last resolved about the university provide legal and material support. Has the university done that for other faculty in the past?
No idea.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, first, I just wanted to thank Dr. Benyus for bringing this back to us again. And, this story continues to get updated, right? And I'd really like us to take a position and unite around this. Thank you.
Jenny, you have questions before we have a motion to vote?
Speaking as an attorney, I don't understand how anybody can take a position when the legal process is still going. I'm a former prosecutor. I've taken some of the worst cases. And it strikes me, and particularly saying that the government has no evidence how does anybody know when the process hasn't taken its course? I have students who have criminal charges pending against them that I am sure they would like to argue one way or another. And I'm not saying it's one way or another, but there's no way, based on what I know about them and how I feel about them, that I would weigh in on a legal matter. And I know that this is very concerning. I've shared information with this body in terms of some of the types of filings in these cases. And it may be that the government ends up dismissing this, but there's no way I would ever, just hearing somebody's opinion and personal record, and take their word for it as an attorney, where I have to bring evidence, some of which is reliable, some of which is not. There's a whole process for this. And it, at a time in our country when the Supreme Court is been criticized by the sitting president, when the whole legal system is saying that it's in the voting system, saying that the process doesn't work, I don't want a faculty senate to have a vote weighing in and saying that our legal system doesn't know what it's doing. We have cases all the time that end up getting dismissed, or the evidence turns out to be worse than you thought or not as bad as you thought, but it's a process and it's a difficult one. And I really warn everybody on this matter, and this will not be the only one. In 5 years, it may be a different issue with Russia and Ukraine. In another, it may be an issue with Zimbabwe or internally, or an Oklahoma City bombing. These issues will keep coming up, and they're incredibly important. And we need to trust our systems. And absolutely, we can advocate for the system and raise awareness, but to have a star chamber make judgment based on people's opinions and relationships with each other, absolutely not. And I say that as an attorney for 20 years, licensed before the US Supreme Court, absolutely not. And I recognize that there are other attorneys in this body, I believe, but we need to wake up a little bit on this.
Can I
Thank you.
respond?
Thank you,
Can I
Jenny.
respond to that?
Yes.
I want to be clear about the resolution. If you all take a look at it, at no point in that resolution do we take a stand on Professor Zhao's guilt or innocence. That is not what you were being asked to vote on. At no point are we calling into question the legal system or how it works, or attempting to circumvent, prejudge, otherwise cast aspersion on the court system. I study the courts for a living. I'm not a lawyer. I believe in institutions as well. Professor Benyus has a personal relationship with Professor Zhao, and I think he's made that clear. There's nothing to hide there in terms of his own relationship. He brought this issue to our attention. He's made clear that this is personal for him as well as professional, but also for the rest of us, this is a professional matter. And the resolution is simply asking you all to ask SIU administration to accept its responsibility to Professor Zhao, not to prejudge his guilt or innocence, not to do anything in relation to the legal system in terms of casting aspersions on it. SIU has a responsibility here, and that's what this resolution is about. This is about SIU standing with its faculty, because Professor Zhao was doing work for the university. And that is what the resolution is about. It has nothing to do with prejudging anything or anything really to do with the legal system. This is about SIU.
Thank you. Because of
Title
time,
says support.
thank you. Okay, because of time, I would like to ask the co-chair to read the last two paragraphs. That means be resolved, and then we're going to vote. Either Jennifer, Sherry, or Scott, would you like to read the last two paragraphs? Therefore, be resolved. The faculty, would you like to read them?
Scott, do you have that pulled up?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, would you mind?
Not at all.
Thank
I can read 4 lines, not the whole thing, but 4 lines, sure.
Yes, yes.
Resolve the faculty senate calls on the university to immediately end its disciplinary investigation and restore Professor Zhao to regular full-time status. And resolve the faculty senate recommends that the university provide material and legal support for Professor Zhao's defense against prosecution by the Department of Justice.
Okay, because of time, we need to have a voice vote. Yea, nay, abstention. Mike, could you start?
Yeah, I just want to also real quick remind everybody that when we do vote in this body, it's to bring these resolutions to the fuller Senate for more discussion. I think this issue
Yes.
definitely needs more discussion. I think we were pretty rushed here, but this is not our endorsement necessarily.
Yeah, just put on the agenda, put them
Yeah.
on the agenda. Yes.
Yes. So Yu-Ting Lee,
Yeah, yes.
myself is yay. And Jay Needham,
Yay.
Jennifer Brobst,
Absolutely not.
Scott Comparato,
Yay.
Jennifer Sherry,
Yay.
Lee Ching Wong,
Yeah.
Joseph Sramick,
You're muted, Joe.
Oh, so I am, yes.
what was your vote?
Yes,
Oh,
yay.
okay.
Mhm.
Bethany Rader
Yay.
and Seung-hee Lee.
Yay.
Okay. Thank you.
So we
Thank
have,
you all for your time.
thank you, Scott, Jennifer Sherry.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, everyone.
put on the agenda. Thank you. And to all the business, governance, Jay and Lee Chang.
We have nothing to report at this time.
Okay, thank you. All the business, so
Really quickly, just to suggest this to Jay. I know we've had a question in recent months about the status of operating papers as new schools. And so I think we're trying to institutionalize that somehow. I know Yi Chang, I know you and I have had that concern. I imagine others on the Senate as well have had this concern about the progress of operating papers. So could I suggest that this be something taken up by the governance committee? So you can kind of look into where we are as a university with that process. And
Yeah, you certainly can. I think it's a good charge for the committee to look at. I just know that, right now, with the status of various colleges, there's new committees have been constituted, such as the one in CAM and in others. So I know process on those have begun. And
but I think it's also broader than the schools. That's a very good point. I think it's also a college governance issue. And making sure that the faculty of robust faculty participation and robust faculty voice and decision-making is preserved. That's, I think, the big concern I have as I think about operating papers in the new school framework, is that making sure our voice is not diminished in any way.
yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Sure. Well, all the business, we will continue our faculty senate meeting and the executive committee meeting by Zoom in February at this point. That'll be okay with you guys? Okay. So new business, just a FYI, President Mahoney will make a few remarks next week. So we're going to schedule him in the very beginning. And that's FYI. And then I know students is not here. I invited President Isaiah Overton to be here. Obviously, he's not here. So if there is any issue, absolutely would like him to speak up to us. And FYI, we had 2 faculty members who passed away. We got this information from Chancellor's office, Professor Shannon McDonald and Marvin. Can I know, any of you know any of these faculty members?
Yes.
Okay. So anything you want to say more? Or we
No, this is the first I'm hearing about Shannon. I didn't know.
Okay, so we just either a symbolic gesture, we honor our faculty member who passed away. This is the suggestion we got.
Has anybody heard about the professor in Spanish that just passed away a couple weeks ago? I think this raises a point, I think, that Jennifer Ropes mentioned, that if we're going to do this, we have to be consistent. And we don't want to be honoring some faculty, not honoring other faculty. So I just raised that. I echo that concern and comment that you made a couple months ago when we talked about honoring Shane back over to summer, that it is a good gesture. We should do this, but we want to make sure that we're consistent and not leave out people.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. The matter is that make sure we send the information to us, to Josh, and we put on the agenda. It needs to recognize, put it on the agenda. Important part is that we get information. Yes. Thank you. And Chancellor Nan and Provost Kumaraja will be here at any moment.
Okay.
So, Bethany, you have questions?
Yeah, really quick, just a concern that with the subjects that are going to be discussed at the full faculty senate meeting, that we're going to run out of time, especially with all of the administrative giving their reports as well. So just something to keep in mind. There may be a few other long discussions, and we may have a time crunch at the end of the senate meeting.
Sure, I will make sure the time will stay with 2 hours. So, it's a catch-22. On the one hand, we make sure we give enough time for discussion. On the other hand, we only have 120 minutes.
So a couple suggestions to that point, because that kind of concern has been becoming increasingly urgent over the fall. One, I would like to keep it still on 20 minutes, but sometimes there are issues that are so important that we as faculty senators need to, I think, accept the possibility the meeting may go a little over 3 o'clock, and that's not going to be the end of that's really not going to be the end of the world. But the important thing about the faculty senate is that faculty voice is heard and that we are able to deliberate on these issues. I feel that some of our conversations have perhaps been too curtailed, and all faculty voices haven't been allowed to be expressed because of that time constraint. And I think the second thing I would suggest is that, are there parts of reports that can be delivered in a written format rather than orally, to just expedite our business when we need to? Just thinking very common, just think very practically about that. And that would be another way to speed us up, to have more time for the things we need to deliberate on. So with that, I notice we have guests now.
Yes, very good. Thank you, Joe, for your comments. I think one example is that the Provost Kumarajo, especially enrollment data. So try to, in the future, try to send to us, then we will not repeat what you sent to us to save time. So now we have about 20 minutes question answers for Chancellor Nan and Provost Kumarajo. Then each of them a few minutes to wrap up. So, okay, Joe.
So I have a different concern this month, and it's something that I just taught a group of really passionate liberal arts freshmen in the University 101. And, you know, this is an interesting semester to be on campus. You know, for the very first time, we're dealing with COVID, coming out of lockdown, their high school experiences in many cases. We had the pass, no pass controversy to try to deal with. So a suggestion, I want to just give both you an idea to think about. I had a student who had transfer credits from other universities say that at this other university, he was allowed a certain number of credits across his 120 credits to do a pass, no pass. There was me, and then that jogged the memory that I had from a quarter century ago when I was in college, and I was afforded the same cap. There was a certain cap. It might have been 6 credit hours, you know, couldn't be done a lot, but I remember taking a really, really hard astronomy class. And I'm a historian, I'm in the humanities, I'm not good at science. And I ended up having, as a college sophomore, having to take that as a pass, no pass, just because I was in over my head. And I think from a point of view that we're in college asking our students to take risk with their intellectual, or with their learning, to go outside their comfort zone, that this, could we perhaps create an ad hoc committee of the university to examine this issue, having a more sensible policy. That way we're not having every semester as a faculty senate to vote on a resolution of whether we should or should not have a pass, no pass, whether we should, you know, that way we're not having the issue of the university student government thinking we don't listen to them. We're not hearing them, that maybe we need to examine our policy a little bit more in lines with the kinds of things I'm saying here.
Thank you, Joe. Chancellor Nam, Provost Camacho, any reaction or responses?
Joe, I'd love to see some research. I'm always open for groups that want to, look at other maybe alternatives or other methods. But let me first say, first and foremost, I'm just honored that we're able to have this process work out in terms of people being able to express yay or nay what they thought about pass or no pass. Mm-hmm. It was good to see that process work. It was good to see it, again, pros and cons of that. Honestly, if you're asking me personally, I don't think we're going to ever see a pass, no pass unless we have the same semester we had in the spring of 2020. Because of the way in which it occurred, it happened so rapidly and it fit what was happening in 2020. Again, going forward, I don't know how you can sustain it. I have not seen any data that supports how you can do that. And I was actually a strong proponent of it. And hey, if we need to do it again, until I heard from folks on the other side. So that's why I was so glad to hear the dialogue I heard with faculty and with students and hey, you got to be careful. If you do this, it'll hurt this, it'll hurt that. It was really refreshing to see that and not have to say, yeah, we're doing it and have these unintended consequences happen. And I know it hurts. Obviously, we're not doing it now. I know it hurts a little bit, but we do have some things in place that I think will at least help us sustain what we're trying to do so students don't get into a rut later on. My fear is they come back 3 or 4 years later and say, wow, why'd you guys let me do that when it was going to hurt me? And so, I'm open to anything that creates dialogue and in committees that want to research and take a look at who's doing what. I had a student who did show me, I think, Joe, 1 or 2 universities maybe that were doing some things that you're talking about. And I wanted to dig into that and see what they're doing, because we can't find many now that are still kind of doing the pass and no pass. They're few and far between. So again, I don't want us to be put at any disadvantage, but I'm always open. As you know, I'm open to looking at any and all of that. But yeah. I wanted to say I'm just proud of seeing the process work. I know sometimes it doesn't feel good, and we're still having to kind of explain some of that. But
I think there was a bunch of stomach churning last month. But I think in December, I think I might agree with you. The process was messy, but we might have got to a better place because of it.
Yeah, a little tough getting there, but
thank you.
Getting there.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Chancellor. Any other questions? Please raise your hands electronically. Jenny?
Thanks. I just wanted to see if we could get an update on the work of Gray and Associates.
Yes, great question, Jennifer. Thanks for asking. So we just got a final approval on Gray's. I think they got hung up in procurement. Good old procurement, but I think it got hung up there, and just got a note last week from Matt saying that group should be approved. There was just a small hang up there. So the timing for us for spring to launch that up is still good. And that group is anxious, as you can imagine, to get to work. So that should be forthcoming real soon.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Do you know how much they're costing us?
Let me get the exact amount. I think it's 30 or 40,000. Let me get the exact amount and get it back to you, though. Don't quote me on that. I should have it before this meeting ends.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know Scott raised the hands. Scott, then Jennifer, Sherry. Okay, no, okay. Jennifer.
Chancellor Lane, I just wanted to address this mainly to you about some conversations that I've had with students this semester about just their mental health, their way of handling things and not handling things. I actually had a conversation with a student last week, I guess it was, and she was really struggling. And so I decided to suggest that she do something to kind of decompress herself. And so I feel that possibly that the city of Carbondale needs to work more intently with the university to let the university community know about activities, or maybe can brainstorm some things that we can tailor to the students to help them decompress. Just for example, maybe an art program would have a painting party. I know that's kind of a big thing now. And that's just an example, but I think if students could have just even 1 or 2 hours just to kind of let their guard down, just be able to chill a little bit and be with people, I think that would be very beneficial. I had to even tell her about the Lights Fantastic Parade. She had no idea that was going on. So she actually attended that and found that it was a good release. And so that's just a suggestion that I have, that I think that the Chamber of Commerce, university committee of some kind could possibly get that in the works, especially in the times that we're in. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great comment, Jennifer. I totally agree. And I know we talk with the city and with the leaders that are here and can definitely communicate that back. What I'm finding is that our students, their social interaction, unfortunately, sometimes is only in social media, right? And so that's where they see sometimes their world of interaction and events. It's in social media, and the more we can do is even the day that we had and some activities we have in Campus Rec and ways to get students engaged face to face is going to be really what we need to work hard on. The other piece, Mira, we were talking about this morning, and we're going to dig into it a little bit. We were bragging about having single rooms for students because we said, hey, our enrollment wasn't where we wanted it to be a year and a half ago, and we had all of this space. So anyone that was looking for a university to attend and to stay on campus, they wanted single rooms, right? That could be impacting us. We don't know that yet, but you have a student who's a freshman in a room by themselves. They're not interacting with a roommate like you and I probably were doing years ago when we went to school. So they don't have that person laying next to them every night that they can just kind of talk about what's going on campus. I know my roommate, I relied on him heavily with just what was going on. So I know we had a lot of freshmen take advantage of that. Coming up this fall, we're going back to more of a double room occupancy model to try and put students back together. Mira's talking about our living and learning communities and trying to have it for everyone, not just, she made a great suggestion this morning, not just for certain groups, but how can we do that for everyone so they can be better connected, Jennifer, to your point, where I think we can begin to engage them in other ways that's more than social media. If I had a dime for every time a student told me, yeah, I heard from another student that this was either the case or not. I mean, so they're getting information that is in most cases wrong, right? When they're asking sometimes their roommates or others. So we got to guard against some of that too and make sure they're getting the accurate information. But I agree, there's things that we can continue to do to try and enhance their experience to get them a little more connected.
Thank you, Councilman. Next one, Joe.
So just to really piggyback on that, something I will share with my colleagues here, because I'm teaching University 101 right now. And one thing I did last Thursday, last week is, because I know the data out there, recruiting and retention data, that first semester or two is where you tend to lose students because they drop out of college that first year. And so I pointed out to them, congratulations, you've made it to week 15 of your first semester. And just think of how much you've grown in those 14 weeks from when you started. And, you know, that was a personal gesture I did on my part. And I would just recommend that faculty do that we just acknowledge our students, you know, just signpost it, because then they feel acknowledged and they feel welcome, they feel part of the community again, versus that sense of anomaly, right? That sense of anomaly, that you're isolated, you're not part of the community. You know, and that's something we really have to combat right now, because again, the pandemic did force a lot of us into our isolation bubbles. You know, not everybody is entirely comfortable with going out in public, even now, particularly with the Omicron and everything. So I don't know what we could do as a university to kind of suggest this, more of this culture. When I think I'm suggesting here is, and it just so happened that it was the accident of fate that I was teaching a group of freshmen this fall, that I was able to intervene in that kind of personal way.
Yeah, I think too, to add to that piece, and I think I heard it in some of these conversations, is we also, and I know it's not going to sound good and I don't want to sound insensitive, but we're also going to have to work with students on some coping mechanisms, okay? How to overcome some of the things that are being put in their way. I'm all in favor of counseling. I'm all in favor of if the semester can get tough, but at the end of the day, right, we still have to overcome some of those barriers. We still have to teach students ways that they can cope. I had a student yesterday that emailed me and he said, hey, I'm gonna, you know, I'm failing my class. Had a lot of things happen this semester, failing my class. And, you know, I'm trying to go back and work with my faculty member. And I said, well, I have to ask you, is this the first time that you've reached out to your faculty member? And they say, yes. And I said, it's probably not going to go well, because we've, you know, this entire semester, you know, you have to touch base and keep, you know, you have to keep your faculty member updated on what's going on in your life. And especially if you're unable to finish the class, because they're probably going to say there's no way you can recover now. I mean, you've gone too far. So we just have to do a better job on our end too with, you know, we had mental health issues, and many of you know this, before the pandemic. I mean, we still had a lot of mental health issues that were happening. I think this has exacerbated it, but there's things we're going to have to do to help our students cope with what's happening around them a little bit better. And we've got some ideas on how to do that.
Thank you, Councilman. Would you like to offer some comments for the next few minutes?
Yes, some of the questions I think help my comments. As you can imagine, I always am very, you know, I let the students kind of lead me there. And I think in this case, I would openly admit, have they had a tough semester? Yes. Have our faculty had a tough semester? Yes. Staff, I mean, it's administrators, it's everyone. here. It's not just the students. I think we've all had a very long semester, but fortunately, we get to celebrate on Saturday with commencement. And again, as I mentioned, overcoming some of the obstacles, I think we'll see many students who are receiving their degrees would probably tell you it was real tough getting it for the last 4 years or 6 years or however long they took, but they made it. And so not dismissing the narrative, but trying to really bring the narrative back to, but look what we can do, right? Look what we can achieve, even in the midst of adversity and chaos and everything else. We still have graduates that will be completing their degrees. We'll have some students, obviously, that will need some help after this semester, and we're here to do that, and we're going to be here for them. But I think if I had to give a hats off to any group of folks who work with students more than anybody, it'd be our faculty, because you've had to see students every day. You've had to listen to their concerns and make some real tough decisions, and hats off to each of you for doing that. But again, going forward, we're going to do a better job. I think this is where we fell short. We're going to do a better job in not only making sure that the mental health counseling and how to access it is clear. I think some of trying to figure out what's a waiting list and what's open, I think that confused a lot of people. We do have open counseling positions now that we're looking for counselors. We have an outside, we can never have enough counselors, but we have an outside agency that we're working with. I was on with them last week talking about the services they could provide and help out as well. Internally, we are going to be looking more at helping our students cope with some of the things that they are experiencing and try to give them some tools to work with to get to the next stage of where they want to be. So a lot of work that we still have to do here. Met with a group of our students that we have formed a task force. We had a student protest the other day. I thought it went very well. I commended the students for coming out and for letting their voice be heard. I was out there with them. And so I got to hear firsthand what a few of them were going through and dealing with, and a lot of what I've heard all semester, things we've been trying to work with them on. But, we're going to meet on a bi-weekly basis with this group and talk through some of the things that we can do. The rally was about gun violence and some of the gun violence that's here in Carbondale. So as you know, we've noted or alerted the mayor, the chief of police, and some others that are around campus. And so we're committed to doing the work and taking care of our students, not taking anything personal, and we can always get better. So that's kind of where we are now. I just want to thank everyone for their hard work this semester. And I know that, again, Saturday we'll be here, and hopefully you get a chance after that to spend it with your family and get some rest as well. Your mental health is important too. I know sometimes I only talk about students, but we need you to be healthy as well because you're teaching our students. So on that note, I'll stop there. Amir, I don't know if you have anything to share there to follow that up, and I'll take any questions too.
Thank you. I know Lee Chong raised up your hands. I would like you to ask a question before Pros Kumaracho to offer a few comments.
Oh, yes, I just want to add about the students' well-being. I think we need also pay particular attention to the freshmen and the sophomore because they were on campus, and then we happen to get this kind of one-on-one, a kind of a close contact. For instance, when I teach them, and normally I would say, I don't have time to study this. And then I was okay, how about this? And next week, every week, you put a schedule, and then you'll say what time you're doing and what you're going to do, and then we don't have this opportunities to provide this kind of hands-on guidance. Sometimes they got lost. Sometimes, whenever there's a problem too difficult for them to solve, and then they will just totally give up, and that add more stress. And then we don't have enough time to discuss those type of things. That's number one. Number two, I fully agree with Jennifer. The students don't go out. What I did last time, 3 weeks ago, I had a computation. I said, go out, take 2 of the best pictures, submit it to me, and I will find the best pictures. And then I gave 3 Starbucks coffee, $10 and not much, but they really like it. And you can see all the beautiful pictures. And then I put them together and share with them. So look, those full colors, that will distress them. Those type of things, I think we could probably do a little bit. The last part I want to say, sometimes sharing our weaknesses, like we also have mental kind of issues. Actually, students take a little bit responsibility. I can see they probably perform a little bit better. They are not the kids. And then it's okay, we should take care of you too. And then actually I think it's very rewarding to me. Sometimes okay, be a little bit like more frank with them. Okay, this is like I'm stressing out. And then they say, oh, okay, actually they are not only ones who are stressing out. My teacher, my professors are also stressing out. And then that helped them too. It's like, oh, okay, we're on the same boat. So that's a kind of a nice thing to do too. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Provost Komaracho, would you like to make a few comments?
Sure. Yeah. First of all, I want to thank Li Cheng for sharing those experiences. It just, as you indicated, makes faculty a little more human, and students can relate to us. From my side, just a few things. One is I wanted to echo the Chancellor's sort of thanks to all of our instructors for really helping us throughout the semester. When we started it, we did not know how it will turn out. And we did make that decision to go face-to-face. So thanks to all the instructors for helping us guide it to this point. And then I would like to follow it up with a request that as we finish finals week and get our grades in, that we are aiming for 100% grade submission by Wednesday of next week. And so there will be friendly reminders that go out on Monday and Tuesday. And we hope that by Wednesday, we'll get everything in. And so that was one thing. And then just request to instructors to remain responsive to students even after the grades are submitted, because sometimes students may have questions and queries about the grade they received. So just to remain checking emails and so on. An update on spring registration. As of yesterday, we had about 74% of our students registered, and we're continuing to give the incentives. And like yesterday, I called a student who won for last week. There were 700 students who registered last week, and he was got the lucky number and received a $500 voucher to the university bookstore. So that is continuing, and we are also sending the friendly reminders for meeting the compliance in terms of all of the trainings that we have had to go through. The provost office every week gets a list of the non-compliant, and then we distribute it and follow up. So that list is shrinking, but we want to bring it down to no list at all. So that's essentially the work that we are doing. And then there are the updates from the various recruitment related efforts. We had the open house on the 6th of November. We had World Language Day on November 16th. And that event did work closely with admissions. So we have those students in the database, and they will receive communication from SIU. And then the last one are updates regarding enrollment that I'll send to Josh. So Josh can include that, but in all categories, we're doing well. The only one is the transfers on campus. Admission is up, but application and actionable applications are down.
And Mira, could you share with them too the amount of her funds? I think we're at 12 million.
Yes.
We have helped to either allocate to students directly or pay off their student balance. So that's a pretty significant number, and we have more dollars reserved for spring to do the same. So we'll make sure you have that information as well. I know sometimes you may have students that say, hey, if I have to retake it, or if I can't make it financially, this is what we're finding is really helping those students as well. So,
Could I just add to that? I think that this is anecdotal information I'm providing you here, but something that I've noticed as program coordinator in history education, my 2 majors. There seems to be a record number of people who have registered for the spring already in my 2 programs. So again, this is only my programs, and I don't know what's going on across the university, but we are seeming to do a better job with providing help to our students when they need it, because in the past, it often was that bursar bill. They had some library fines or whatever it is, a bursar bill, and they put an automatic block on their registration for the spring. And then you run into the problem where it's not a problem so much in history because we don't have a lot of prereqs, but in some programs on the other side of campus that have prereqs and those classes are closed. And then you say to students, sorry, you can't get in, wait next semester. Well, if we say wait next semester, they may be the last straw that causes them to go somewhere else. You don't know with a student.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Joe. What we are realizing is that there is mental health counseling and then there's academic counseling.
Right.
Those are two totally different things. And sometimes the academic counseling is needed more than the mental health because students are trying to figure out why the hold is there and when can I take this next class. And that's academic counseling. That's not mental health counseling that's causing the anxiety for them, right? How to study, how to time management, everything you're teaching in 101, right? So, yeah, and you see that percentage is at 74%. That's a pretty high percent of students who are already registered in a very traumatic semester, but already registered for
I just wanted to highlight that because I think whatever we're doing a much better job than I think we've done for years on this campus with this issue. So I just wanted to highlight that I was noticing that in our reports that we get every week of who's registered for the spring and who still needs to. Yeah.
Thank you. Either Provost Kumarajo or Chancellor Nan, final comments to wrap up?
I think we've said it all, not to put anybody to sleep, but again, can't thank the group enough. We didn't know, if you look back in the fall, I don't think anybody knew what this fall was going to bring. And so we did the best we could. And there's some things I know we've learned from that we can enhance. So we can always get better. And you saw the note we put out, I guess, Mira's probably a week ago about our plans for this spring. And so we plan on coming back this spring and hopefully things stay the way they are. And wanted to get that note out to you before you left for breaks. At least you know what you're coming back to. And but other than that, we're moving forward, looking at our fall semester with recruiting and trying to yield, get a higher yield on some of those high application numbers you heard Mira talk about, and a lot of events in store for this spring. So again, appreciate this group's guidance, expertise, and what you've been doing, and it's helped. I know it's helped me out, and it's helped our team out. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Chancellor Nan, Provost Kumarajo. If there is any additional comments, question before we have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Well, thank you, everyone, and happy holidays and safe travels to everyone.
Happy holidays,
thanks, everyone.
Thank you, and we're going to meet the next Tuesday. So I think we can save that for next Tuesday. Okay.
You're a hard driver there, Dr. Lee.
Right.
Yeah.
And also I guess Chancellor Nan, Provost Kumarajo will be there, and the President Mahoney will be there to offer the comments. I think we have one more faculty senate meeting before year 2022. Now I need a motion to join our executive committee meeting.
Motion
So
to
moved.
adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Anyone second? Scott moved. Anyone second?
Yeah.
You second, Li Chang second. So all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you.